Flosstube. Stephanie here, Ms. Oh So Crafty. Today is August 29th, 2019. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Thank you for sticking with me if you're a subscriber. I know it's been quite a while since I filmed a regular update. I did pop in a few weeks ago to do a short video for Magical Stitches. But other than that, it's been a couple months. It was just a very busy summer with a lot going on, and I did stitch a lot, but I just didn't really have too much time for filming. There were some situations where I had the choice between either filming or stitching, so I chose to stitch in those times. But now my son is back in school, so I have a little time to myself, and I can do this. It's probably going to be a long one, so I hope you have your stitching, your beverage of choice, or whatever. Put your feet up, however you want to do it. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. I've got whips, I've got finishes, I get a new start, a few new starts actually, I think, from your perspective, and stash. Yes, I got some serious stash enhancement when I was in New Jersey at the Flosstube retreat hosted by Arlene, works by ABC, and I will talk about that a little bit too. It was awesome. So, do you want to start with FOs? I made a clip to show my Mill Hill Village, and I will insert it here. Hello, Stitchy friends. I want to make this clip to show you my Mill Hill Christmas Village, which I finally finished in early July after 79 days of stitchy days over about 2.5 years, not counting the year I spent collecting materials prior to that point. So this is stitched on 28 count Jobelin in the Stormy Gray colorway, hand dyed by Witchell. It is comprised of 12 Mill Hill kits from the Christmas Village range, and I ditched the perforated paper and stitched them together on this fabric. I added this border, snowflake border, that's stitched in Kreinik number 4 braid, 00, oh gosh, I can't remember. Well, it's white, sparkly white, 032, that's it, yeah, 032, all the way around. It is just this giraffe dot drawing, if you will, that I found online. It's not like a cross stitch pattern or anything. I just adapted it to cross stitch. Very simple thing. Just repeating snowflakes. I had to do some math in the beginning to kind of make everything fit and get centered and all that. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I definitely learned a lot about how to set up a big project like this in the course of making this project. So when you last saw this, I had just started the firehouse, and the firehouse took 6 days to stitch in all, and I really love how it came out with the cute little vintage fire wagon and the wreath button and the bell up there. Super cute. So I will just go slowly around the village. So the firehouse has the wreath button. The post office has a tree. Yeah, one thing about this is the buttons are rather large, and they're only attached at one point, so they do go askew if you don't kind of fix them. Next door is the Palace Theater. This one is actually one of my favorites. I love the Art Deco style. That one has a tree. And here's the Queen Anne house. This is like my dream house. Of course, this is another favorite. I love the candles in the window and the little bit of the Christmas tree you can see. Lovely, lovely details. That one also has the tree button. Moving up to the middle row, sort of the center of town, we've got the apothecary. Another wreath button. Always like that one with the barber poles. I think that's really cute. Next door is the general store. This is probably my least favorite of the village. I mean, not that I dislike it or anything, it's just not as fancy as some. I do love the peppermint button though on the sign. I think that is super cute. This is the one I had to modify because it had this weird coal chute or something on the porch, so I got rid of that and just did more of the building. So this one is my all-time favorite, the St. Nicholas Cathedral. This one is almost fully beaded. It's got the the stained glass windows with Kreinik, and it has a little cross at the top. This one has a star button, which is great. Definitely stands out, and I just love that one. It's so sparkly. You can't really, it's hard to film it, but since it is almost entirely beaded with the light lilac crystal, it just catches so much light. And then next door we've got the Village Bakery. I think that's perfect. I go to church, I go to the bakery. So this one was really fun to stitch, loved it, and I think that gingerbread man button is just adorable. And this lantern over here, so cute. All right, moving up to the top row, I started with the tree farm. That turned out pretty cute. I like the button, the little like candle in the lantern. I think that's really cute. Trees for sale, and then next door is the toy shop, which I modified a little bit, made it a little bit more blue for my son. It came with a little girl button, which is pretty cute. And then next door to that is the bookseller, which was so much fun to stitch. I love the architecture and the little black cat stalking underneath the birds, hilarious. And the bench is really nice. This one has like a little mini stack of books as a button on the side there. And then last but not least is the needle workshop. This is actually the last one I finished because I had stitched it with a pattern from my friend, so I had to kit it up myself, and I didn't really get my hands on all the materials until kind of the last minute. So I had to finish up the beading and sew the snowman button on. So I think the snowman button is so cute, and I love the colors in the needle workshop, the greens and the purples. Those are my favorites. And the sign with the ball of yarn or thread or whatever it is, I think that's really cute. Love the roof. Yeah, had to have a needle workshop in my village, right? So just like an overview of the village, there it all is. And there are over 20 designs in the Mill Hill range. How did I pick these 12? Well, it was sort of a work in progress. At first I wanted to include buildings with people in my village, but as I started to stitch one, I realized they were sort of charted at a different scale and they looked funny right next to the building. So I didn't do any people. I did get a sparkly Santa needle minder that I may like put on here just as like a decorative button. It's not on here at the moment, but yeah, so I chose basically buildings I thought belonged in a village. For example, the tree farm, because you need a Christmas tree, toys for my kid, books for me, needlework for me, apothecary, general store, church, bakery, the standards. Queen Anne house, like I mentioned, my dream house. I love that style of architecture, Victorian architecture. The Palace Theater, love going to the theater. Post office is kind of critical, you need your stitchy mail and you need to mail your stitchy friends and all that stuff. And then the firehouse was kind of like, I picked it because I like the aesthetic appearance. I thought, well, firehouse is a good thing to have in the village. I like the red double doors. I like the vintage fire truck with the water tank. I thought that would be a great thing to put on the edge of my village, and I'm very pleased with how it came out. So, okay, I'm back. Well, July was a good month for finishes because not only did I finish the Mill Hill Village, I also finished the Joan Elliott Christmas Teddy, and I will insert the clip I made for that one here. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Oh So Crafty Finish Files. So this is my Joan Elliott Christmas Teddy, which I finished on July 14th, I think it was. It took me 25 days after starting it in January of this year, and it is stitched on 32 count white opalescent velvet. See that sparkle? The size of the piece is not huge. It's 8.5 by 10.5. So I stitched it for my son. You can see his name there at the bottom, for Oliver. I'm looking forward to framing this and putting it up in his room this year. So the pattern involves DMC, not too many colors. Joan Elliott is a color wizard, the way she manages to create such beautiful shading without, with a reasonable number of colors. The details in this pattern are just outstanding. The Christmas ornaments the candy canes with the gold metallic trim on the box, the alphabet letters spelling out joy, the robins with the holly leaves and berries, the gold Christmas ornaments, the teddy's face. I mean, look at that face. How adorable is that? It's just, this is the cutest teddy bear pattern I think I've ever seen. The tree came out really nicely with the gold beads for the ornaments and the star at the top with the starburst and the silver kryneck. So yeah, as for the kryneck, there were two colors of kryneck, the silver, which is the trim for the fur on his hat trim and all that stuff, the jacket, and then the gold is used in the pattern, like for that ornament, and some of the other ornaments also used for the ornaments in the window. Speaking of the window, love the window. Such a great way to frame this piece. He's sitting in front of the window basically. It was really easy to stitch, just blanc DMC with a couple of shades of silvery gray. I love it. It was my favorite whip just because of like the glorious colors. And there's also some beads on this. There's red beads and then the red beads for the holly beads, and then there's also some gold beads. Like there's gold beads on that ornament and on the tree, of course. My favorite details are probably the robins. I think those are just adorable. They did involve some fractional stitching, FYI, but that was pretty much the only part of the pattern that did. I mean, I guess there's a few fractionals throughout, but they're mostly in the robins, and it was worth it. I think the robins just came out adorable. I love this one especially, holding up the little emerald holly leaf with the red holly berries next to the teddy's face. I think that's so cute. So I'm really looking forward to starting another Joan Elliott piece, but I'm having a hard time deciding which one, but I'll keep you posted. All right, ta-ta. All right, I'm back, and I have one more little mini finish to share with you. Now, this is something I did in a few days at the end of July. It was meant to be a exchange thing for Arlene's retreat, but I did not get around to fully finishing it. So it is this little freebie by Nessie Lynn, to Let Your Light Shine. I stitched it on Haven Cashel by Picture This Plus, a little scrap from a larger project that I'm working on. And I did some color modification on it because the colors as charted didn't really go well with my fabric, so I chose some of my own colors and I personalized it with Oh So Crafty up there, which I had a hard time with. I don't know why. I didn't want it to be that big, but if I tried to do it smaller, it wasn't really legible, so yeah, oh well. You can see I did not manage to get this into a FFO, but I will try to do so for a retreat in the future. It's definitely going to be a giveaway item, and I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. I just haven't gotten around to shopping for the necessary materials or actually doing the work. Alright, so I guess now we can get into whips, and I do have quite a few. I've got 8. This is going to be a full-on whip parade. Okay, the first whip I want to share is the Spring Bell Pull by Stony Creek Magazine, and I will show you what it's supposed to look like. Spring. So this is from the Stony Creek Autumn 2015 magazine, although it is available as a chart pack, I think, on 123. I know that Stony Creek is releasing all those bell pulls as all of these are from that series as chart packs. I'm not sure if they've done the spring one yet, but they may have. Okay, I will insert a picture of what it looked like before my last video. Okay, since then, I have worked on it 6.5 days. Here's where I am currently. And basically what I did is I finished up the P block with the back stitch and everything. I can't remember if it was back stitch last time I showed it to you, and I started the R block. The R block is not quite finished. It's almost there. There's a few more colors that need to go in, and then the back stitch. This block doesn't have a lot of back stitch. It's just the butterflies and some vines, and then the word, which I think is going to be renew. So we have sing, praise, renew. This one was, I think it's really beautiful, but man, it was a pain to stitch with so many color changes. I have a tendency to bring this project to retreats because it's so like small. I mean, from a width perspective, it fits easily on a tiny frame. The problem is it is just not a good thing to stitch at a retreat. I mean, except for the big letters and the borders, they aren't too bad because that's just like, you know, a single color or whatever. But all the details just involve so many color changes. So, yeah. But I'm going to continue working on this throughout the rest of the year, although we're nowhere near spring, and it would be nice to, I definitely want to finish it next year. Maybe I could even finish it this year. We'll see. It's almost half done now, since there are, you know, 6 letters, and R is almost done. It would probably just require one more evening to get that finished off. All right. The next project I want to share is Spooky House by X's and O's. I'm not going to insert a picture because of what it's supposed to look like. It's almost done. I will insert a picture of what it looked like before. Okay, I have worked on this. This is Spooky House by X's and O's. It's stitched on 32 count Thunderstorm Belfast. I have worked on it 8.5 days since the last time I shared it on this video on the channel, the last regular update anyway. And what I did since that time was, well, in my note I have that page 5 was half done. So page 5 was the middle one on the top. So I finished page 5, including the metallics. That's the silver metallic, and of course the PB10 for the moon. And I did most of the back stitching too. There's a little bit of back stitching that remains, like the roof line here and this little detail you can hardly see because it's not back stitched, and this little chimney pipe and that one, but it's almost back stitched. And I also stitched most of page 6, which is the top page on the right side. So this one was a pretty easy stitch, just like a lot of moon and tree. The tree is done in 3 colors, the 3 different shades of brown. So, and then I'm using, I think, 3371 for the back stitch. It called for 310 for the back stitch, which I think looks fine for the outlining of the tree, but then when I tried doing 310 for the branches, it just looked weird, too stark or something. So yeah, 3371 for the win. That's like that really dark brown, black brown. And what's left on this is I have to, well, finish the back stitch on the middle page here, and then finish the tree. There's a little bit more branches that need to go in there. Finish the moon, fill in all these lines up here, and then back stitch this page, which is kind of a lot of back stitching. Every one of these branches is going to have little, you know, more of this stuff on it. So that's a lot. And then there's going to be more back stitch to do at the bottom. There's like long stitches that are tented all over it for the grass in a variegated DMC, which I did obtain recently. So my plan for this is to focus on it next month, September, and try to finish it. I think it's less than 2,000 stitches at this point. We shall see. All right, the next WIP I want to share is actually a new start from your perspective. It's Anna by Nora Corbett, but I stitched her as Ginny Weasley. I started her on June 9th, and I gave it 7 days, and she's just about done. All she's at this point, she's just missing a couple treasures, which I did buy recently. I can show them to you. So what I did for Ginny is I modified the scarf to make it like Gryffindor colors, and that necessitated a bead conversion as well. So this pattern calls for like regular size seed beads, by contrast with Fleur, which called for all petites. So I started doing it with the regular seed beads in my stash, and I found some appropriate colors and all, but it just didn't look right. It was huge and ungainly, so I found some petite colors that worked, and yeah, voila. The other thing I did is I switched out, in the pattern she's holding an apple, and I decided to give her a pygmy puff instead because that is Ginny's pet in the series. The pygmy puff is like this little fur ball type animal. It's like bright pink. And what else did I do? I guess oh yeah, I gave her the red hair, of course, Ginny's red hair. I changed up the color on the beads on the end of her braid just because as charted it was like the red beads or something, they just blended in too much. So there's Ginny and Fleur. I do have plans to stitch more of these bewitching pixies as Harry Potter characters. I decided I'm going to do Hermione, Luna, Cho, and Tonks. So it'll be 3 pieces, 2 on each. And it'll be fun figuring out how I'm going to modify all those patterns to make them recognizable as the characters. This was really fun to stitch, didn't take too long. Maybe you'd like to see the gems. Okay, well, I ordered a whole bunch of gems because you need to. Well, you don't need to, but if you buy $25 worth of stuff, you get free shipping. And I actually bought this cluster earring kit. That was like 20 bucks or something. One of these days, I'll break out my beading supplies and do that, or at least attempt it. Anyway. All right, so this one is Fire Opal. And these are Swarovski crystal bicones 4mm. FYI, the Mill Hill, whatever they call them, I don't remember. The ones that are called for Anna, the bewitching pixie, they are equivalent to Swarovski bicone 4mm. And here's the same type. These are cyan, dark red. These are light cyan. And then these are ruby. I think I got those for the reindeer. Yeah, I'm back at it. The Christmas Eve Couriers by Nora Corbett. You'll see my new Star Home Prancer later. So let's see, all together now. Yeah, I think those will look really good on Ginny with the bead colors I used. What I wound up using was gold and autumn flame and deep red and mulberry or something like that. So there's going to be one there and 2 there and 1 there and 1 there. I think that's it. And 1 at the end of there, maybe end of there. I don't know. I had to figure it out. Look at the chart. Yep. So that'll take a few minutes to stitch on. I'll probably use my black Nymo thread for that. Or maybe I'll use the white one. I don't know. I'll have to test it out and see. I'll definitely use Nymo though, because it's strong and, you know, good for sewing on those treasures. Alright, so that's Ginny. The next whip I want to show you is Twilight Bridge. Now this one is kind of a shocking amount of progress. I probably worked on it the most since the last video. So this is what the pattern looks like. It's a dimension gold kit on 18 count Aida cloth. And the Aida that the kit came with is actually pretty decent. So the kit came with the floss. It was not pre-sorted, but it wasn't too difficult to sort out using these bobbins. The problem was after working on this piece for like a month, the paper bobbins were falling apart. Excuse me. At the Flosstube retreat, my darling roommate, Melissa, found this for me. It's a Paco organizer, and it is missing one peg, but you know, who cares? There's plenty for what I need, and I tell you, having the floss on the Paco makes it so much easier to work on this project. So I'll insert a picture of what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. So, yeah, 17 and a half days since I stitched. I basically had the tree, and now I have most of the bottom left quarter. It comes to about here. So I have to fill in the rest of it. I stitched quite a bit on the upper page as well over there. I did some silly stitching in rows for the district games. Agriculture district, one of the challenges was to plant stitches or plant crops with your stitches, so like do like crop rows. And it was a silly exercise, but it was worth it because I finally got picked as a tribute. So I'm a tribute for the agriculture district, and I'll be participating in the final district games. However that's going to go, I have no idea what they're going to do, but hopefully it'll be fun. I really like working on this. There's something just about the 18 count Aida, like it's so little and cute, and I love how tiny my stitches are and how neat they are. And I mean, they're not terribly neat. A lot of them, most of this is half cross, so the full cross 2x2 or 2/1 rather, it goes, you know, easily, swimmingly, but the half cross with 5 strands, 4 strands, whatever, depending, it's a little delicate. It doesn't really go any faster than cross stitching with 2 strands because there's just so much floss on the needle. You kind of have to be careful about how your stitch lies and all that stuff. So I think the swans came out really cute. They're going to be back stitched. There's not too much back stitching on this page to do, just the swans and then like a little bit for the bridge and the rocks. Not much at all. So I'll probably back stitch this page once I get it finished. And then I don't know what I'm going to do. I may move on to this lower page over here. It's only 4 pages, so each page is pretty big though. They're bigger than like Heaven and Earth pages. It would be nice to have, you know, the whole like bottom of it done because, you know, when it's in the scroll frame, of course, I'm scrolling it, you know, vertically, so I don't have any frames that are big enough to, or tall enough rather, to show the entire height of the project. So lots of thread parked on there. Sorry, one of the reasons why it's so like patchy with like all these like random orange stitches over there is because I was playing bingo with Semi Sane, and I did not do very well in bingo. A lot of my numbers were just never called. But when they were called, I would attempt to stitch with them, and like those were some of those floss numbers. Yeah, so Twilight Bridge by Dimensions, I'm very pleased with it. I think that the waterfall is really cute. I love how the twilight sky is reflected in the water pooled beneath the cascade, and I love this cobblestone bridge here. I think that is just adorable. Alright, so that's Twilight Bridge. My goal for this, I guess, is to, well, finish this page. I definitely want to get at least one page finished this year, so I'd be very happy if I get that page finished and a decent start on the next one. All right, the next piece I want to show you is, I guess, another new start. So after I finished the the Mill Hill Christmas Village. After I finished the Christmas Village, I wanted to start, another like village type piece, preferably Christmas. So I decided to start this one. This is Gingerbread Grove by Glendon Place. This is stitched on 28 count Haven Belfast by Picture This Plus. I've given it 6.5 days so far, according to my notes. So I started over on the left side with the tree, again, bingo colors, and I've just been sort of making my way over. This pattern calls for tons of beads in Krynic, about 8 colors of Krynic. I had 3 in my stash, and I actually put them on the piece where I could. So it's this color, the chartreuse, and this one, the copper for the reindeer, and then this one, the red. Sorry. The red Krynic. There's a little bit there on the fireplace and the small gingerbread house, and there's also some on the reindeer's collar there. So to the extent that like this empty area here and like the roof line and all that stuff and the other reindeer's collar and the empty areas on this lollipop, all that's supposed to be done in Krynic, or in some cases beads. So and everything, absolutely everything in this chart is backstitched, like everything. I'm a little bit concerned about that because I can't really backstitch it yet because I don't have the Krynic in, and the Krynic is such an integral part, like I kind of need to, I need to do the Krynic before I do the backstitching. As for the beads, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably just wait till and do the beads at the end, even though they are significant. I don't want to really have to have beads on the piece and worry about like my floss getting caught on them or anything like that. So, yeah, I really love stitching on this. It's a lot of fun with all the little motifs, kind of. I mean, they're not exactly motifs, but they're little elements. So this is the big gingerbread house up here. So I started with the roof and the side of the house, dormer window there, and then the front of the house is going to be over here. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and my first foray into Glendon Place patterns, definitely not my last. I have such a hard time photographing this fabric. That's pretty true right there. It's not like it's a really pretty, bright, beautiful blue. It's not pale or desaturated or anything like that. This is, like I said, Haven. I Picture This Plus. It's my favorite sky blue. All right, the next whip I want to show you is Save the Stitches. I will insert a picture of what it's supposed to look like and a picture of what it looked like before. So I have worked on this 7 days since my last update, and at that time I was working on part 5, which is this one over here. So as you can see, I stitched kind of a lot since then. This is part 5, 6, 7, and then these lines here, this line here is part 8. And then part 9 is done except for the metallics. Part 10 is about halfway done at this point. Or more than halfway, maybe. Yeah. That's part 10. Excluding the metallics. I mean, what I'll do is I'll do this whole row, 9, 10, 11, and then I'll do the metallics for all 3 at once. It just makes more sense to me to do it that way. I'm stitching this one 25 count Stormy Gray Lugana with DMC floss. I'm using 336 for the outlines and the border, and I'm using 4240 for the filler patterns, which is variegated, Midsummer Night. I'm using DMC Diamant thread for the metallics, which I'm afraid I cannot recommend. It's just too splitty. If I could do it over again, I would be using PTB or something. But hindsight's 2020, and I'm too far into it now to switch, so. Yeah, I'm enjoying this a lot. My goal for the year was to do 12 parts, so that would be like the rest of this row and then the wide row to go beneath it, like this one with the 6 diamonds, 2 large, 4 small. I think I should be able to do that. No problem. Maybe I can do a little bit more. So I'm setting myself a new goal. I want to get to part 18 this year. I think I can do it. I mean, we got another 4 months to fool with, right? And I'm going to try not to like start anything real big, I think, before the end of the year. Unless I finish something big. Or even if I do finish something big, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to finish Spooky House, and that's pretty big. But I'm not going to start another huge piece to replace it right away. I might start something smaller. I want to stitch this We Do Harry Potter pattern that I have by Stitch Line. I don't have materials for it yet, though, so hopefully I'll get that sorted pretty soon. Anyway, neither here nor there. Okay. All right, the next piece I want to show you is the Fantasy Triptych by Teresa Wensler. I have worked on it on sort of a picture of what it's supposed to look like when it's done, and a picture of what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. So I have worked on it 6 days since my last update, I think. And what I did in that rotation was just pretty much backstitch. Well, I finished off the rest of this page. There was a little bit more to fill in. So this page is all done except for the border, which I did start a little bit with those brown stitches there. And then I tried to backstitch these 2 pages. I did not quite succeed in doing all the backstitch. The backstitch instructions started with the water, and I was like, what? What water? Well, thankfully there was a separate small chart included because this area is actually water. So this dark brown line is like the shoreline, and then you can see the greenery and the castle wall reflected in the lake or whatever it is. And then on top of the stitches, they have the separate chart shows like little half crosses, and those are supposed to simulate reflections in the water. So yeah. And then this page also involved backstitching for these trees and the rocks. And there's also a backstitch on the castle walls, but I'm not going to do that till the top half of the castle is stitched, and then I'll just stitch the whole castle together. The next page was a misery to backstitch. It's backstitching in 3 colors of green. So there's these trees in the background, the ones that are growing underneath the cliff, and then there's 2 big trees in the foreground, and then these trees that are sort of big trees but semi-set back. It was very hard to tell what was what because this thing is just all confetti, and the backstitch lines were all over the page, but they're all just black and white, so it was hard to tell like what backstitch went with, what stitches, what color to use for what backstitch line, but I figured it out eventually. And I'm happy with how it looks. I mean, it's more, you can tell what it is now. It's not just like a green blob. You can see there's trees, so I'm satisfied with that, and it'll look even better once I do the backstitch for the rocks. I just didn't get a chance to do that in the 6-day rotation. So yeah, this is not one of those pieces where I can bang out like 600, stitches in a day. No way. It's just a lot of confetti, a lot of like painstaking detail. All right, and that brings us to my most recent news start. So this is Prancer by Nora Corbett. I will insert a picture of what it's supposed to look like. Here's my start. This is one day worth of progress. One evening, it's like 560 some stitches. This is the candy cane blanket or something that's draped on the reindeer. No, not a bad little start. I am planning to use this for a lot of Magical Stitches extra credit next month. So do you want to talk about that real quick? So we're starting book 6, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and there are reading tasks and stitching tasks, and yeah. So I'm going to talk about the reading tasks and what I plan to do for them. So the first one is 500 stitches on something royal. So I decided to use Fantasy Triptych for that because castle, royalty, and there's a knight in it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, reminds me of royalty. The second task is 500 stitches on a collection of 8 minimum. So I will be doing Save the Stitches for that because it's 24 parts in all. 500 stitches on a project with a designer starting with SNAPE, so one of those letters. I will do Prancer by Nora Corbett, so N for Nora. .500 stitches, so task number 4 is 500 stitches on something like a pygmy puff. I decided to do my spring bell pull for that because there are birds in it and they are fluffy like pygmy puffs. There's a bird there. There's going to be more birds in the next line, the next block, the eye block, which I will work on because backstitching this and finishing it is not going to get me 500 stitches. Not even close. The kind of depressing thing about this piece is that 500 stitches doesn't really look like much though, since it is on the 18 count. Yeah, this is on 18 count and cloth, 100% cotton that I got from the Stony Creek store. Okay, the next task is 500 in red or pink, for blood, and I have a few options for that. I could do this one, Gingerbread Grove. There was a lot of red in this. Or I may do Prancer. There's a lot of red in that as well, red and pink, so I'll figure it out. I might have to do both depending on how. I'm not sure whether it has to be all red or all pink or if you can combine them. I don't know. Alright, moving on. So task 5 is 500 related to a spider. For that, I plan to do my spooky house piece because it has a spider in it. See? Spider in the window. The next task is 500 on a potion or a beaker or a cauldron. I don't really have anything with that, so I was thinking about starting Cauldron Cleaner by Hands On Design. It's part of the Scary Apothecary series, and it's a small pattern that has a cauldron in it, so I might do that. Although I don't have any fabric for it yet, so yeah, I have to look at my stash. I might have something because it calls for 32 count. I do have plenty of that. All right, number 8 is 500 on a Horcrux. So the Horcruxes are, well, there's a bunch of them. There's a diary, there's a ring, a locket, a cup, a diadem, which is like a tiara, like a headpiece, the snake, and the lightning-shaped scar. So for that, I think I'm going to start the We Do Harry Potter pattern by Stitch Line. I will insert a picture here. It has a little snake in it. Task 9 is 500 on a design starting with the letters HBP for Half-Blood Prince. I will be working on Prancer again because P for Prancer, yeah. This is kind of why I started Prancer, because I looked at these tasks and I needed something for those initial tasks, and none of the pieces that I had were going to fit the bill. Plus, I was down to like 6 projects or whatever, so I needed to start something. All right, number 10 is 500 in backstitch or half stitch for the Half-Blood Prince. So I'm probably going to do Spooky House for that because there is a lot of backstitch to do. As I said, all those tree branches, yeah, I could easily get 500 backstitch on that. And then task 11 is watch the movie and post before and after. Okay, it's been 36 minutes. Do you want to see my stash? Hang on a sec. Okay, I'm not even sure if this is going to be an exhaustive review of all the stash, but here is a DMC color card with the actual floss. This was also found on the freebie table at Arlene's retreat. This, I don't think it's the most recent edition, but I am thrilled to have it. It is so helpful when you're doing conversions. So it took me like 30 seconds to figure out what I was going to do for the Pygmy Puff, because I just opened this up and looked at the red purple tones. Alright, I got this magazine, just cross stitch Halloween. You've probably seen this. I really like that monster teacup design. That's by Doreen Jones. I think that is so cool. I might stitch one of the small designs for the My Retreat Stitch Fest in October and finish it into a project bag or something. For the exchange, we're doing like a project bag exchange. Now here is that floss that I mentioned for Spooky House. So this is going to be used. This is DMC 92 variegated, and that's going to be used for the long stitch in the grassy lawn, the graveyard. Here is Joan Elliott's Fairy of the Rain. I got this from Needleworker's Delight. I love that. I love her outfit. I love the wings that are like dripping with water, and yeah, I think it's really cool. This was found on the freebie table, so it's Nora Corbett Fern. It even came with the embellishment pack and a needle minder. I love her outfit. The greens and the blues and everything are right up my alley. I don't love how she's lacking a face, but I could probably fix that because she's, you know, head on, so yeah. Okay. This was something I found at the store. This is Baby Flake by Jeanette Cruz Designs. I love this. It was stitched by Elizabeth, Vintage Stitches, I think, and I loved it, so yeah, I think that's just adorable. This I found on the freebie table, Marbeck Forest Angel. Look at that cape. And look how cute the animals are. There's like a little bunny down there, and the gray squirrel and the fox, and oh, it's just adorable. Yeah, and the cape, like I said, gorgeous, gorgeous. I think she's so pretty. And this pattern is massive. This isn't even all of it, but yeah, you can kind of get the idea. This I got at the store. Diane, one of the sweet people I met at the retreat in New Jersey, found it for me because I had been wearing this t-shirt that said I practice stitchcraft. So yeah, that's what the the pattern says as well. It's just like a little chart. Witchy Stitcher, Stitchcraft. I like how the bobbins have like some long stitch on top of them to make them actually look like thread bobbins. That's pretty cool. This was a freebie. I like that chart that says there's no place like home, especially at Christmas. It's Stony Creek, especially at Christmas, book 80. It's an oldie. There's some cute ones. The kitten with the boots, I think that's adorable. Or two kittens, actually. Yeah. Okay, here are these, well, here's the pattern that I mentioned a few minutes ago, Cauldron Cleaner with Enhanced Spell Check. Yeah. This is part of the Scary Apothecary series, so this is Coffin Paint, Cackle, Lozenges, Shriek Well, and Cauldron Cleaner. As you may recall, I was lucky enough to win the first 3 patterns in the series as a raffle prize at Stitch Shenanigans in Arizona. So this is the next 3, and actually the last 3 are out now, so I have to get my hands on those. This is something I saw at the store, Needleworker's Delight, that is, and I bought it for one reason, this being the reason. Santa's Labor of Love. I think this pattern is just spectacular. Really awesome. Vicki Kyleberg's Christmas illustration, it says. I don't know who charted it, though. And it may not say. Cross stitch designed by Donna Ewan, adapted from an illustration by Virginia Kyleberg. The finished project size is 15 by 22 1/4 on 27 count. It was stitched 3/2. Well, I won't be doing that. I might use 28 count and go 2/2, or 32 count and go 2/2. So it'll be a little bit smaller, but it'll still be spectacular. Love that. So this is the Better Homes and Gardens Cross Stitch Summer 1992. And this was only $5 at the store. So yeah, I was happy to like spend $5 or even less than that because I'm in the club to get that gorgeous pattern. Alright, this was something that I found on the freebie table. I really like that pattern, the Madonna and the Child. But the reason why I picked it up was the Vikings. Looking for the Vikings. Where do they go? Here they are. Oops, that's the chart. That's the chart. Here we go. Vikings. Gunmar and Freya. I thought they were really cute. And my husband kind of like, well, he thinks he has Viking heritage. I mean, he probably does. He looks the part, so. Yeah. But I showed him this pattern and he just laughed. I realize it's a very silly pattern, but maybe it's something my son might like. I don't know. In a few years. This was a freebie. I Love Halloween ornament by Mill Hill. It's the full kit. Isn't that cute? I actually have a Halloween tree, excuse me. Flosstube Itchy Nose. Yeah, okay. This is a raffle prize I won at Arlene's retreat. This is a color and cotton fabric with some of her floss. So let me take it out of the package so I can tell you more about it. It's hand-dyed linen biscotti casual 28 count, a quarter yard. This is really nice. Yeah, very pretty, very neutral. Yeah, it's neutral. It looks a little bit desaturated here. It is more like yellow. But yeah, very nice fabric. And then the floss, I'm not going to go over all the floss colors. I'm sure most of you have probably seen them before, but I can see one of them is Vertitor blue, so it's like there's a couple blues and a couple grays and browns and like sort of a greenish gray. They're not, none of them are really, I guess some of them are more variegated than others. There's a few that are like mostly solid and a few that are kind of like subtly variegated. I have no idea what I'd use these for. There were several color and cotton packs available, and I basically put my raffle tickets, kind of split them up among the various color and cotton packs, and I was lucky enough to win one of them. Here was another freebie. I liked that Santa smoking a pipe. Love the smell of pipe smoke. Don't like cigarettes, but yeah, I do like the smell of pipe smoke. Okay, here is some fabric I got at Needleworker's Delight. Silk Weaver fabric. It is called Ametrine Casual 28 count. And it is this beautiful, like, purple, greeny goodness. I got it for this pattern, Cathedral Woods Goddess, which I also purchased at the store. And I got the beads as well. So I actually picked up the beads first, and when I saw the beads on this fabric, I was like, oh yes, that is it. I was initially thinking I was going to go more for like a brown kind of fabric, but I think this will be awesome for her. So that is one project that I more or less kitted up at the store. The other one is, Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus by Bygone Stitches. So it's like a Santa silhouette with, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, thank God, he lives, and he lives forever. 1,000 years from now, Virginia, nay, 10 times 10,000 years from now, he will continue to make glad the heart of childhood. So I live in Virginia, and I know that in the context of this pattern, you know, Virginia is a person, a little girl, but yeah, I thought I liked the connection. So they had a model at the store, and it got me. So I bought this fabric to stitch it on. This is the Zweigart Belfast 32 Ruby Wine. And I bought this PB26 Treasure Braid. So that'll be used for the words. And I did buy some white floss. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, so this is Splendor Silk. So, yep, there we go. So it's all kitted up basically. I don't think it would take that long to stitch. It's 160 by 180. They did the model on 36 count, but I looked very closely at the store model, and given the size of it, I'm pretty sure that they did their model on 32 count because, you know, the way the math worked out, and it was pretty much exactly the size that it would have been. I held up a piece of paper to it for comparison, so yeah. I think it'll be great on 32 count, and perhaps the text will be a little bit easier to read as well. I'm always leery about using too high count fabrics for patterns with text just because, well, you want that text to be legible, right? Alright, here's another freebie that I got. This is from one of those British magazines, Cross Stitcher. Yeah, UK Cross Stitcher. So it's Tigger with a pile of presents. I thought that was cute. And then there were some other things, like this was so kindly made by Caroline of Evertotes. It's a little zipper pouch, and she made enough of these to give to everybody at the Flosstube retreat, which was so kind of her. And there were more freebies and everything from the goodie bag. You've probably seen them in other people's videos. Like, this is kind of cool. It's a erasable highlighter, I think it is. Yeah, never had one of those. Trixian. Some floss that was donated by Fiber Talk, Gary Parr. So there's Fiesta, Rayon floss, and this is Matte 18 cotton, both by Rainbow Gallery. This was donated by Krynic, so it is a bunch of like odds and ends. I looked at this and I was like, well, maybe I could use this for my gingerbread grove. The problem is I don't know what any of the colors are, and the floss is used so the metallic fibers are used so extensively on that piece. I don't necessarily object to subbing, but I don't want to be in the situation where I don't have enough to fully stitch it, you know? This was a freebie. It's like a little bag with a magnetic closure. Very cool. Part of the swag. A little notebook. This bag, of course. Flosstube retreat. There was a freebie chart that Arlene created for the retreat. And here's some swag art floral charts. I guess this was donated by Needleworkers Delight. Some fabric that I believe was donated by Needleworkers Delight. So this is great. These are like ornament cuts or whatever, and perfect colors for ornaments with the red and the green and the neutral. So I will definitely find use for those. Let's see, I don't even think I've looked at what they are. I don't know if they're labeled. Let's see. This one is Balfus Deep Magenta. And this one is Cashel Dark Teal. This one is Devosa 18 count khaki. And this one is Edinburgh 13 count Silvery Moon. Wow, that's pretty. Yeah, those were from Needleworkers Delight, donated. This was a part of our swag. Really cute little rainbow zipper pouch. There's some Wheat Dye Works floss and other stuff. Counting pins. So there was lots of swag. It was a really fun retreat. It was in Woodbridge, New Jersey at the Hampton Inn, and it was a perfectly comfortable place to stay. I slept very well there. I think one of the nights I was there, I slept like 9 hours, and I haven't slept 9 hours since I can remember, so that was awesome. Yeah, retreats for the win, right? So I hope that Arlene continues to do it. It's a great retreat for me to attend since I can, drive there and everything. All right, I wanted to talk about my books and my plans, so I guess I can do my stitchy plans real quick. I don't think I have time to talk about books. I'll make a little addendum to this video and tack it on later. So my plans for September to focus on pieces are going to be Prancer, Fantasy Triptych, Spooky House, Twilight Bridge, and 3 days for Save the Stitches, and then I have a question mark probably for another piece that I'm going to start after I finish Spooky House. I'll have 5 days for that question mark piece as well. I was thinking maybe Joe and Elliot Father Christmas, but I don't know, because I have Gingerbread Grove and I have the reindeer on the go. I was thinking I might try to do, obviously I want to finish Prancer this year. I mean, even though I just started, it's not a big project. I can generally get finished in between a week and 2 weeks. It's not that big of a deal. So I've stitched 4 that I did a few years ago, and I would like to do 4 more. I'm just going to do 8, because from the poem, 8 tiny reindeer. Rudolph can just, whatever. I don't care about Rudolph. Yeah, the problem with the Father Christmas, though, is he's not really going to help me with my goal to stitch something with a Horcrux. So I think I would prefer to start that We Do Harry Potter pattern. And I do want to stitch that Harry Potter thing while I'm doing the School of Magical Stitches. But like every month, I'm sure I will work on everything just because things pop up, for homework and challenges and whatnot. And I won't be doing any more district games because like I mentioned, I was chosen as a tribute, but there's other things going on in Semi-Sane Stitchers. There's Dodgeball that's going to come up and in September, and also Choose My Whip. So for the first round of Choose My Whip, I put in Spooky House and Fantasy Triptych, and Spooky House is winning by a landslide, 20-some votes to about 7 or so for Fantasy Triptych. So it looks like that piece is going to be my first focus in September, and that's great because I want to use it for several of the extra credit tasks for Half-Blood Prince, so I will just knock those out and hopefully get it finished, or at least get it very close to finished. And I have done a lot of reading this summer, so I will talk about my books after this. Ta-ta for now. Here we go with the first episode of Oh So Crafty BookTube. Welcome back to all the readers and bibliophiles. So I have read a lot of books since June 7th or thereabouts, since I last posted my video and I talked about The Priory of the Orange Tree. And I'm going to go through them one by one in order that I read them, with reference to my Goodreads notes, which I did make notes on some of them, others I just assigned star ratings. So here we go. The first book that I want to mention is The State of the Onion by Julia Heisey. This is a cozy mystery about a White House chef who witnesses what could be a terrorist attack, and at the same time she's trying to figure out what's going on with that. She's also competing for a big promotion at work. So it is cozy, but it's not extremely cozy. There are some violent and gross things that happen in the book. But there are also some recipes at the end. I quite enjoyed it for what it was. And if that's your cup of tea, I would recommend checking it out. All right, the next book I want to mention is Death Cursed by Sarah C. Roethley. I chose this for a prompt to read a book with a fancy dress on the cover. I found it in Kindle Unlimited, and it's a YA book about a girl who lives a very solitary existence because she seems to hurt people with her touch, and one day she is kidnapped and pulled into this mythological demi-world, if you will. I gave this book 2.5, 3 stars. I didn't think it was all that great. Not a whole lot happened. There's lots of characters, but most of them aren't really developed very well, so their motivations and their character arcs were kind of suspect to me. And if you're really into, YA and you love mythology, maybe you should check it out. Otherwise, I'd probably give that one a pass. But lots of people disagree with me. It was well loved when it came on the Limited, so yeah, just my opinion. All right, the next one is Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. what I said about this in Goodreads is hilarious romp through PC culture and the creative genius and madness of an artist. I've never laughed so hard reading a book, but I wish at least some of the characters had been easier to root for. Overall, I found it to be cleverly written and amusing, but kind of sad in the end. So this is a book that is primarily written in the epistolary tradition with letters, emails, memos, that kind of thing. It's set in Seattle. It's a contemporary book about family and basically the choices we make and the struggle between work and life and art. And the main character, the title character, is she was an architect who won all sorts of awards and did groundbreaking work as a young professional, and then she basically had a professional setback, and then she got married and she had her kids, and she lives in this crazy house in Seattle that used to be like a institution, and like the house is being slowly enveloped by blackberry vines. So the book has lots of like hysterical like cultural references. It basically skewers like Seattle culture and the whole like organic like helicopter parenting, all that stuff. It's quite amusing and I really enjoyed it, but it is kind of, like I said, most of the characters are just kind of reprehensible in their own ways. I mean, the exception would be to the extent that the book is narrated, it's by the architect's 13-year-old daughter, and she's a good character, but she's just sort of like there, she doesn't have a whole lot of power and agency in the book. But, very good book, 4.5 stars from me, and I picked it up because I'd seen a trailer for the movie and I wanted to read the book first. So after reading the book, I'm very curious to check out the movie. All right, here we go. So the next one is The Violet Hour by Andrea Wells. This is the first one in a series. I got it on Kindle Unlimited. It's a YA paranormal. So the main character is this Los Angeles socialite who moves to Montana or something, or Wyoming, I forget, to be with her dad after her mother is murdered. And there are these 4 boys that are just like hanging out at her dad's house, and who are they? Why are they there? Like, predictably, she falls for one of them. I figured out what the great mystery was, like, very early on in the book. I didn't think it was, all that great, so I would give it, 2.5, 3 stars. Also, being YA, there's a number of really like disturbing, violent things that happen in the book, but they're all just sort of glossed over. And, I'm not one for gratuitous violence or whatever, but to like set something up and then just be like, she closed her eyes and then woke up like 3 days later, like, what? Yeah, I won't be checking out the rest of the books in that series. All right, the next book I want to talk about is Harley Merlin and the Cult of Eris. This is Harley Merlin number 6 by Bella Forrest. This is also available in Kindle Unlimited. I love this book. I give it 5 stars, no reservations. So it's about this young magical Harley Merlin who has magical affinities like out the wazoo. She's quite powerful, maybe too powerful. And she belongs to like this misfit coven. And there's this crazy, like, woman who happens to be related to the protagonist who runs a cult and is trying to, like, take over the world. And in this book, Harley and her friends attempt to infiltrate the cult. And it's just really good. Lots of action and adventure, a little bit of romance. It's smart and it's fun and great book. I really enjoy them. If you like Harry Potter, this is kind of like where Hogwarts left off. So all the characters in the book, for the most part, are like, like young men and women, like in the post-high school era or post-college era. And they're like basically trying to like find their way in this magical world. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. All right, the next book is Shadowland, The Mediator #1 by Meg Cabot. This is YA. I got it for a prompt to read a book about a psychic. So the protagonist in this book, she sees dead people, and she's this wisecracking New Jersey girl who has to move to California with her mom when her mom gets remarried, and she has to like adjust to this culture and this new family and everything, and so a new school, and the ghosts find her and she has a great sense of humor, and she's very like no nonsense kind of person, and the book has a little like little touch of romance and plenty of like action and events, and I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, maybe 3.5, 4 stars, around there. I thought it was a good book, well written and quite entertaining. All right, the next book is Shattered Mirror, Eve Duncan #23 by Iris Johansson. So #23, I picked this book up because I needed a book that had a mirror on the cover or in the title, and I found it at the library. So it's about Eve Duncan. She's a forensic sculptor, and one day this partial skull that's been all like burned out and desecrated is delivered to her door in like a mirrored box. So she doesn't know where it came from or whose skull it is, and the story kind of develops from there. There's a lot of there's a paranormal element to it. There's a lot of family dynamics. There's a mystery. There's action, adventure. There's mafia. There's music. All sorts of stuff going on in this book. It was quite enjoyable. My one quibble with it was I just found the antagonist to be a little bit over the top. Like, is there anybody who's like that evil, that adept at causing, mayhem and misery? It kind of like never ended with this dude. So I would give that like 3.5 to 4 stars. All right, the next book I want to mention is Baltimore Blues, Tess Moynihan #1 by Laura Lippman. I picked this one up because I was looking for a book by a journalist, and Laura Lippman wrote for the Baltimore Sun. So this one is about Tess. She's a underemployed person who like sort of putters around her aunt's bookstore, and she rows for fun. And one day her rowing friend asked her to investigate his fiance, who he suspects is cheating on him. So Tess starts snooping around, and she discovers that that's just really the whole like beginning of like a whole can of worms. So if you know Baltimore, there's lots of like cultural references to the city and the culture, and it's a very well done book. I liked it a lot. I was surprised at the end with the identity of the killer. So, and the conclusion of it was pretty crazy, like the things that went down, and it was a very tense, total page thriller. So I give that one a solid 4 stars, especially if you know Baltimore, love Baltimore. I mean, I've never lived in Baltimore or anything, but I do know it pretty well. So. All right, the next book is Forever by Pete Hamill. This was the same situation where I was looking for a book by a journalist, and Pete Hamill was a journalist. I don't know what publication, though. Anyway, so I got this one from the library, and I was a bit surprised by the thickness of the tome. It's like almost 700 pages long, but it was worth it. So it's about this. Well, it starts with a young boy, Cormac, who's living in Ireland with his family in the early 1700s, I guess, or mid 1700s, and they are basically hidden in plain sight because of their religious affiliations. They're not free to practice their religion, being so close to Belfast and everything, and they are very much discriminated against, and eventually some tragic events go on, and he's basically orphaned, and he decides to go to the New World, to North America, to enact revenge upon this evil man and his family. So by and by, the Revolutionary War comes up, and Cormac is definitely fighting. He winds up in New York, and he's fighting for the Union side, and he's basically working with a company of Africans who he had met on the boat, and he sustains a mortal wound, but he is saved, brought back to life by his friend, this guy who's a Babalawo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's essentially like a witch doctor from Kenya, and he basically grants Cormac eternal life, but only as long as he stays on the island of Manhattan. So this book has a little bit of everything in it. Like magic, as I said, there's action, there's battle, there's mystery, there's romance, there's all sorts of stuff. He becomes like a journalist and an artist, and there's political things going on, and yeah, it's a really fascinating story. Lots of New York history in there if you're interested in that kind of thing, and I loved it. I give it 5 stars for me, no doubt. All right, the next one I want to mention is Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. This is a YA, and I got it from the library for some reading prompt, can't remember what, but this is what I wrote about it in Goodreads. Raw and honest portrayal of how casual cruelty and bullying can lead to tragedy. Popular mean girl Sam dies in a car accident with her friend driving drunk after a party, but does she really? She's caught in a time loop that allows her to examine the effects of her actions, good and bad. The character arc is amazing yet realistic, definitely a page turner. So I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's basically a really, searing look at, the high school culture and how mean kids can be to one another and the ramifications of that. And just a really good book. And it's actually been given the movie treatment, and the movie is available on Amazon Prime, FYI. The movie was not as good as the book, but, when are they ever? Okay, the next one I want to mention is Tell Me Lies by Carola Levering. I got this one from the library because I needed a book with a pink cover, and this one definitely has a pink cover. So this one, really good book. I gave it a solid 4 stars, maybe 4.5. It's basically if you ever wondered, like, if you ever want to get inside the brain of a sociopath, this is your book. A narcissistic sociopath. So it's about this toxic relationship between these two people, and from both his and her perspective, and it's just a fascinating portrayal of how that all goes down and their relationships with between each other and their families and friends and everything. And very good book. I quite enjoyed it. Definitely a page turner. All right, the next one that I want to mention is The Highland Duke by Amy Jarecki. This I found on Kindle Unlimited. It is a romance. It's about a young Romani woman who's a healer, and she comes across this guy who's been terribly wounded on the battlefield, and she wants to try to help him, but he doesn't want to reveal his identity to her because he's not supposed to be at the battle in the first place, and he's basically he's a duke. Right. So it's a pretty good book. I mean, it's well written, and it does have some explicit romance in it. So if you're easily offended, maybe not for you. But it's not really a whole lot of that kind of thing. I mean, most of the book it's more like a will they or won't they kind of thing. So it's pretty good. Entertaining, but nothing earth shattering. I give that one 3 stars. All right, the next one is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I chose this because I needed a book that had a U, starting with U, for my Magical Stitches ultimate reading. I was very close to finishing that at the end of July, so I had to find some U books, or the end of August, or whatever it was. Anyway, all right, so Uprooted is about this. Well, this is what I wrote about it on Goodreads. Agnieszka is a valley girl who enjoys the natural world and village life with her family and best friend, but a dark power hangs over the village, which exacts a high price in exchange for holding back the malevolent force of the wood. The wood being this haunted forest, if you will. And one day, all her expectations are upended. It's a coming-of-age story with magic, love, friendship, political intrigue, war, and adventure. Believable character arcs and relationships. Loved it. So I give that one 4.5 stars. Really good book. Very much enjoyed. It's very much like a girl power book, if you're into that kind of thing. And if you like, magic, and it's essentially like a fairy tale, All right. The next one I'll mention is, well, I didn't finish it, but I'll just mention the book. So it was called The True Love, Audrey and Maturin number 15 by Patrick O'Brien. I picked it because I needed a book with initials P-O or O-P or whatever. This one, maybe the problem was that it was number 15. I couldn't really get into it. It was just like these guys on a ship and nothing really happened. So I gave it a fair shake. I read like at least 100 pages of it, and that was more than halfway. It's not a long book, but then I just returned it to the library because I really wasn't getting anything out of it. So I couldn't rate that one. I feel like it wasn't fair for me to rate it without finishing it. And at the same time, if I'm not really enjoying a book, I don't finish it because life is too short. All right, the next book is another U book. I needed 2 U's. Hufflepuff, right? It was a spell out challenge, so there's 2 U's in Hufflepuff. And anyway, so the book is called The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel Joyce. And I gave this one 5 stars, really good book. This is what I wrote about it on Goodreads. Harold is a pensioner, living a rather monastic existence. His wife Maureen is there, yet not. Some event 2 decades past, which is unspecified, has left them an ocean of emotional distance apart. When he receives a letter from an old friend with terminal cancer, he wants to do something and embarks on a walk across the country, which is England, to visit her in hospice. He's not remotely prepared for it, physically or emotionally. But as his body breaks down and rebuilds, he's alone with his thoughts much of the time, and he relives many suppressed memories. And what will happen to his marriage, such that it is, with so much distance from his wife? It's a story about family, faith, and the human condition, and it made me laugh and cry. So I'm kind of like a tough nut. So when a book makes me cry, it's pretty darn emotional or sentimental or whatever. I thought it was a really good book, and I very much enjoyed it. All right, the next book is another one I didn't finish, but I will just tell you briefly about it. It's The Girl in the Spider's Web, Millennium Number 4 by David Lagerkrantz. So I got this from the library I needed a book from a Scandinavian author, and I adored the original trilogy with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So this is a continuation of that by a different author. The original author passed away. Those books were published posthumously. I couldn't get into it. There were all these characters, and there's all this stuff going on, and shocking events, but I just wasn't really invested in it. I don't know. There's just something about it, like maybe there wasn't enough of the title character, Lisbeth, the hacking hacktivist, I guess you could say. Activist hacker. Anyway. Yeah, I didn't finish it, so I can't really rate it, but I'll just say that, I gave it a fair shake, and at least like 100 pages, and I was kind of indifferent to it, so I returned it to the library. All right, the last book is Belfield Hall, Dido Kent Mystery Number 1 by Anna Dean. I got this it was from Ann P. Hi, Ann, if you're watching. So after I struck out on that True Love by Patrick O'Brien, I still needed a book with those initials, so I went looking in the homework page under that task, and I saw that Anne had listed this book and under that category, and I checked it out. It seemed like it might be up my alley, so this is what I wrote about it. Dido Kent is the spinster aunt to Catherine, a passionate young woman in Regency, England. Catherine begs Dido for help after her fiancé leaves her under mysterious circumstances from their engagement party. And then there's a body found in the garden. The residents and guests make up an interesting cast of characters at the country house, and Dido tries to investigate them all without causing too much offense. The strict social constructs are a challenge, but Dido is smart and capable, and I love the twist at the end. So I thought it was a very well done book. I gave it like 3.5 to 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it, and I would read more by the author. All right, that's about it. Was that enough? That was like 15 books. And hopefully short and sweet. I mean, I couldn't go on too much about them with, this video already being like a movie length. So thank you so much for watching. Oh, I guess there's one more book that I should mention. Sorry. It's called Dragon War, and it's by Alicia Wolf, and it's Reclaiming the Fire, book number 6. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. I loved it. It's about this dragon shifter whose birthright was stolen from her, and she's an expert thief. Her name is Jade, and she has some magical abilities, and she becomes like an honorary Fae Knight. And this book is the conclusion of the series, and basically they are trying to avert the apocalypse, if you will. So it has some great characters, some really funny parts, and some really hot parts. If you're easily offended, perhaps not a book for you. I really loved it. That series, as well as the Harley Merlin series, in my opinion, are some of the best ones that are available on Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, I really like the Dragonfire books. The first one is called Dragonfire, if you want to check it out, by Alicia Wolf. I haven't rated that yet on Goodreads. I guess I would give it like 4.5 to 5 stars. Yeah, very good, very entertaining, solid. Lots of action and romance and mystery and cool characters and locations, and it's just a fascinating book series. All right, I guess that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you everyone who leaves a comment and who hits the thumbs up button. I appreciate every one of you, and I'm so thankful to all my subscribers. All right, everyone, take care, be well, be kind. Ta-ta!